All right, so there's one last piece that we need to put into this particular simulation, and people often don't notice this, but it's this little piece right here. We need a label that constantly recalculates the current throughput of the highway, which is basically the number of cars that wrap around off the end divided by time. So we need a J label to deal with that. I think I'm going to put that in the same section as start and stop. So a new J label. Throughput is a new J label. So I need to import that guy. And this guy is just going to be constantly displaying the text of whatever throughput is. I'm probably going to need to keep track of that using, so I'm going to have an int, which is a car count. And then I'm also going to need to have something that deals with time. So how long has gone on. I think I'm just going to keep track of the start time and just do the math each time. So let's see. I guess I'll just put 0 for now. So car count should be updated. Get rid of that comment. Car count should be updated whenever we wrap around to the other side. So that happens in the step event of the road. Let's see, road. There it is, step. So I'm going to need to have some way of updating that. So I think in road, I'm actually going to have a car count as well. In fact, I might just move it to here, now that I think about it. It's going to start at 0, and I'm going to want to be able to get and set this car count, because I'm going to want to reset it. So inside of the step event, if I ever set myself back to 0, this is when I need to add the number of cars that have actually wrapped around. I believe that's the only place where I actually do it, is where I set it back to 0. Nothing happens with collision, nothing happens with step. There we go. And so in order to deal with this, I'm going to need to have a getter and a setter for this. So public int get car count, return car count. Did I spell that the same way? Let's do a capital C just because that makes sense with all the rest of the things we're doing. All right, so now I can get a car count. I don't think I want to set it to a particular number. I think what I'm going to do is do a reset where I just set it back to 0. So if I ever stop the simulation, I'm just going to set the car count to 0. It might be better to have this as a separate button if you're going to have a fancier interface, but that's the idea. Okay, so in the start, if running is false, I'm going to set this to true, and then I'm going to want to reset car count. And then I'm going to want to start this thread. And then within this thread is where I'm actually going to update what's going on with my car count. So I take one step. I'm going to say, hey, whatever road's car count is, set yourself to that. Get car count. Oh, another thing I forgot is that I need to get the start time once I do this. So I also need to get the start time here. So start time equals system.get current time millis. Did I spell that right? Not get, just current time millis. There we go. And then start time is this guy up here, which I'm also going to do these things with. Okay, so start time is the current time in milliseconds. So that happens when I hit the start button. When I hit, and so it'll reset the next time I hit the start button. So I skip the car count, I take a step, I'm probably going to need to calculate as a double what the number of cars is divided by the time. So the thing I'm going to put in the label is going to be, let's see, throughput equals car count divided by current time millis minus the start time. Now I gotta watch out here because these are both integers and it's gonna do integer division if I'm not careful. So the next thing I need to do is I need to update the label. So my label's my label's called, oh, that's also called throughput. Let's name this something else. Maybe throughput calculation. Throughput dot set text throughput colon plus throughput calc. So now that'll update constantly. All right, so this is going to be awesome. Where's my label? I should actually add that in. All right, I should add this to the bottom. This should be a 1x3 layout. And then I should say south.add throughput. Otherwise, I'll never be able to see it, and that would be silly. There it is. Let's add a bunch of sports cars so it wraps around more quickly. All right, so notice here that it's actually calculating now. E to the negative 4, of course, is a very small number, but as we get more and more cars through this, it'll actually increase this number. Also, another thing to keep in mind is this is in milliseconds. So if I actually want this in cars per second, then I need to multiply this number by 1,000. And that will give me seconds. So not very many cars per second. As this runs over time, eventually it should start getting a little more stable as far as a number goes. The traffic patterns will clear up however they're going to be. Notice that this one has kind of regulated itself. And this number will stabilize as well. So those are the pieces you need for this particular project. Hopefully you have cars that move, cars that switch lanes, different speeds, and whatnot.